everybody and their neighbor. Welcome back to your favorite podcast slash video program. I don't know what you call it anymore these days. Your favorite show, Gear and Gear. Today I am fortunate enough to have with me in the studio virtually one of our favorite co-hosts and somebody who's just put out something that's pretty exciting, Stacy Venne. Stacy, how the heck are you?
Oh, I am great. How are you doing, Jet?
I am doing okay. You know, locked in quarantine is good for productivity in the musical sense, you know, as recording and studio work.
It's, I think about it, in some sense, it hasn't been bad. I feel like some of the
I'm going to knock on wood as we say that, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
sure.
Well, some of the things that I feel like I've done in the last year, with including the quarantine, have been some of the best that I think I've ever done in my life. So it's sort of like, well, okay.
You know, I think we've seen in bands like Van Halen or Fleetwood Mac, or I'm sure there's more modern bands that I could pull out of my butt if I was more into more modern bands, but that where the stress of the situation created great art, you know, or compelling art, if you don't want to call it great art, certainly compelling art. And so I think that everybody being in a state of stress right now might create some really good art.
I think you're right. I think
terrible price.
Yeah. It's it's been a kind of an unfortunate year for a lot of people, and that kind of brings to why we put on ourselves so much pressure to release this. I think right at Christmas.
Yeah, so let's tell the folks a little bit about what we're discussing. Stacy's put together a medley of Christmas songs called A Christmas Suite, Suite.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, it's a great piece. It's 4 songs that you would not have necessarily thought to go together, and they just really go together nicely. They create a nice image, and Stacy's basically just putting it out there as like the Christmas card to the world. Is that right?
Basically, I just, I don't know, we had worked on it. Some of the tracks are pretty old, but, there's...
pretty old meaning months, not years.
Meaning months, yeah, meaning that I remember the last year at this time, we were here in Texas, my family, and we came over to the studio, and we previewed some of the tracks for Carol of the Bells. And so that's like, okay, that was a year ago. So most of it was recorded. I mean, at least Carol of the Bells. I think some of the rest of it happened during the following year, but...
along with other projects. So let's just, there's been a lot of other recording going on, and we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Okay. Yeah, but that is kind of the songs that I did or have done. They're Carol of the Bells. It's the theme from Peanuts, Linus and Lucy. The God Rest You Merry Gentlemen and Greensleeves. And then a hopped up version of Greensleeves that just basically the same progression, but kicked up a notch. So it's a rock version of Greensleeves at the end.
And the whole thing is a rock medley, I'd say. You know, there's elements of jazz and blues in there, but overall it's got a real rock flavor, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a rocked up. It's just sort of how I play, and that's how it came out. So
this ended up as a 10-minute piece, and in full disclosure, I did record it here at Sound. It was recorded here, so vested interest and all that. But this was Stacy's concept, and he came to me with it, kind of with a history with this song. So tell the folks a little bit about that real quick.
Yeah, so it started with my good friend Greg Kay, who I went to school with out at Cal State Fullerton. We studied classical guitar, and we were both broke. And he started this. He started playing. He would call people, and if they answered the phone, great. He would play a little bit of a Christmas carol on his guitar and arrangement for classical guitar. If they didn't, he'd leave it on their voicemail. So that's, it kind of started doing that, and too, with, at the same time. And then every year I would kind of do this. I would sometimes play them at family reunions. I would put together, one or two little pieces for things, and mostly it was acoustic. And it's classical guitar, because that's what I was studying.
So just not with the band, you just play it solo as a piece.
Yeah, and including up to sometimes I did go and play it in churches and things like that. And there were some churches that I did. I would go and sit in sometimes. Sometimes they need a sub guitar player, and I could. I got together with them usually Thursday before Sunday. I could go through the services fine and read it basically. But so it started to kind of turn into something after a while, piece-wise. I mean, composition-wise, it started to kind of gel into things where I was trying to write the passages between the pieces, right? How do you build a transition between something like Linus and Lucy into God Rest You Merry Gentlemen, right? And so that was
one of the longest, most difficult to say titles of all time. Great song. In every form, I love that song, but God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen, there's a lot of vowels and syllables and consonants. Like, boy, I think it was a test back in the whenever it was written, 1700s or 1800s. Like, how much ale have you had? Can you say the right. Nope, I'm sorry. You're out of here, Fred.
Yeah, well, and that's how come I just kept playing it, because it's sort of like, I can't say all those words. Let me just play it.
Let me just play it. I don't want to say it. Yeah.
Right.
Ye is so little used these days. Ye's got short shrift.
That's right.
Some antiquated language there.
Yeah.
Short shrift. I've gotten some short shrift too. You don't hear that anymore.
No, and not in the same sentence usually. God rest you.
Which does beg the question: does anybody get long shrift? Does anybody get the better end of a deal and go, man, I got me some long shrift on that?
That's right.
I don't think that's probably it. Okay, so get back, because we are clearly digressing in tangents that are ludicrous.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
We do that pretty often.
It's the holiday season, everybody. Holiday season 2020. We're doing this over Zoom. For those of you that are just listening, we're not actually in the same room, although we are not too far away from each other.
Yeah. We're in the same state right at the moment. Yeah. Even in the same city, pretty much.
I'm going to keep track of that. And but good. So basically, the song as it stands is like a 10 or 11 minute piece. Is got history for you, and that's nice. It's got a history. It was a tradition. And then turned it into something a bit more of a performance piece, so to speak, that in a band format. So, So tell me just a little bit about the process in your mind of switching it from one to the other.
Well, I wanted to have some good things to play solos over, and so God Rest You Merry Gentlemen, the progression worked itself out very well for that. I guess starting out with Carol of the Bells, really just wanted to have a soaring kind of melody on top of that kind of part. And now, I'm
going to take a little aside here real quick. Who are you influenced by for listeners who have no idea, or viewers who have no idea anything about you?
I studied classical guitar at Cal State Fullerton, and had some great teachers there in composition and in guitar technique, and so that's been an influence, kind of a lifelong influence. But I didn't really. I was like this with some of my teachers because I played rock, and and
that's a four-letter word.
I know, I couldn't stop really, but I was really influenced by. Eric Clapton and especially probably, and Jeff Beck, and from that era. And then later I learned a lot of Southern rock things and played in a lot of bands that had blues and rock and
But there's more than that going on. I mean, I'm hearing some Satriani a little bit, some Vai perhaps, maybe a little Brian May. I'm hearing some other stuff that stretches beyond the stuff you're talking about.
Oh, yeah. Well, they absolutely. Satriani, Joe Satriani, has just been somebody I really, really admire, and Eric Johnson. So, it's the influences. Your earlier influences are probably more going to show up somehow in your playing, but later influences, they're there for sure. Just love those guys and practice the same kind of things that when you hear something that you go, dang, that sounds great. You try to learn it, and maybe not try to learn it exactly, but try to learn it to way that you would do it. So
interesting. Trey and I have talked about that before in previous episodes where we discussed neither one of us wants to particularly learn something verbatim so much as we want to learn the flavor of it. Unless we're trying to do something verbatim, in which case we definitely want to learn verbatim.
Right.
I really wanted to get that thing as a tribute to the artist that originally did it. But if I'm just trying to look at licks, like Eric Johnson plays something, I'm not going to try to learn his lick note for note.
Right.
What I'm going to do is listen to, is he got that divided up in fives? Oh, that's interesting. Oh, he's doing a pentatonic versus a chromatic runner versus a 3-note per string run. He's doing 2 notes per string. That's the kind of thing I'll pick up in the flavor of it, but I'm not going to try to learn his actual thing.
That's the kind of the difference is that early on, you're trying to learn things exactly. How did you do that exactly? And then, later on, you kind of, I kind of left that, do I really need to learn it exactly anymore? I'm going to play it like this. Like if I play Comfortably Numb or Crossroads or something like that, it's like, let me start out on the same, in the same.
You want to show that you can do it the way the original was, at least, or at least at the same peer level. But then here's my take. Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah. So this piece is it's got ups and downs as far as tempos and that kind of stuff, but it's got a nice overall flow through the whole piece. A lot of the footage of you was filmed in California, where you live most of the time. Now, other than the beautiful scenery out there, I want to talk a little bit about the equipment that you used in the video, and we'll show some of this as we talk. But the first thing I'm going to talk about, everyone wants to hear about the guitars, but I'm going to talk about the little brown box on the ground that I'm in love with. Can you tell people a little bit about that? Because the more astute viewer is going to go, hey, wait a cotton picking minute.
Yeah, wait a second. Yeah, it's a 62 brown face super Fender super amp that with 210s, yeah. And it's a sweetheart. I've had
drool coming off the corners of my mouth.
Yeah, I've had basically that same amp for a lot of years. I mean, even way back. I have even a story with my same friend of mine, Greg Kay, that I had one and I ended up giving it to him at some point. And then I had to get another one because what happens, this was sort of like, wait, I got rid of that guitar. I just got to get another one just like it. So
that's for people that aren't familiar with the 62 Super. It's how would you describe the tone?
Well, so it's really kind of a chameleon as far as when you start to put pedals and effects in front of it. It's a really good clean sound. You don't have to do anything if you want to just plug it in and play it. If you're in a living room or in a situation where you have to play really clean.
But it's loud enough to gig with. It's a gig.
It's loud though. Yeah. It's to get it. I haven't I found since for a lot of years and other things, not different amps for different situations. This one is really good for for just almost anything. But it's gotta have some breadth. It's gotta have some room. You gotta turn it up pretty high.
Right. Otherwise, they do sound kind of anemic, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But so it's not really. It's living room capable if you put something little like a tube screamer in front of it. There's no master volume involved on these things. So
capable being to be brought down, not to be brought up. It's
right.
backwards capable.
Right.
Yeah. And ironically, that amp was not used on the recording, but it's the amp used for the video. And
no, but that amp will make its way back.
So
it'll make its way back here for some profiling. Pretty sure.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the guitars you had in the video, because there might be some people that want to know. I saw an R8 there, the beautiful gold R8. What was the black Les Paul?
Oh yeah, that's kind of the best piece that I have, best guitar kind of in my all of my years of buying and collecting guitars. It's a 55 Les Paul custom. I don't think there were very many made, maybe a couple, 150 or 300, I don't remember exactly, something like that.
And Les Pauls were brand spanking new. I mean, that was a new idea in 1955.
Yeah. It was, they made them this way in 54, 55, and I think 56. By 57, they changed over to humbuckers.
Right.
And because this has got a P90 in the bridge and that staple kind of Alnico, it's basically a P90, but with Alnico kind of a different bolt.
Which does make a difference in the sound. Yeah.
It's an incredible guitar. I mean,
so that's real relicing you're seeing in that, people.
Yeah, it's got some pretty good use, and I've had it for quite a while, since around 2002 or 3, probably since 2001, 2 or 3, something like that.
Now you also had a gem. I saw a white gem.
Yeah, it's a fairly recent white gem. It's I love those the Ibanez guitars. I have a few gems from different eras, and
right. You did a video on the kind of the restoration of a flower.
Right. Yeah. I have a floral print gem that's a 90 something, 80, or I forgot the year, but it's kind of an early year. I think it's maybe 88 or something like that. It's but it was totally destroyed. That I bought it as parts guitar. It was.
That's a different meaning of parts guitar than a lot of people think of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was the same guitar. At least it was. The neck was broken. The headstock was broken off. Not off. The tip was broken off. There was a big crack in the neck, and one of the lower bout was just hanging.
These are great phrases, by the way. As you're buying a guitar, you want to hear, things are hanging and cracked and missing. The words that bring a certain, warmth to cockles.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it was listed as a victim of domestic violence. So.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, and I got it for pretty, incredibly cheap for being an intact guitar with issues. Not totally intact. It had the pickups were gone. The bridge was there.
Now, to be fair, I just like to pause and tell people that Stacy's got a bit of a history in looking at things that most people would, let's just say, write off and go, nah, I can make that work. And then he'll just dive in and, months later, weeks later, days later, sometimes it'll come and it's like a functional thing or a dog that he kept because, or whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter. He's got such a soft heart. So it's kind of fitting that you did the Christmas video and are giving it out to the world and everything. It's it's just what we needed for 2020. It really is, you know?
Oh, well, thank you.
It really is.
Oh, well, I was going to just say, Jet, thank you so much for doing the interview and the podcast, but really, thank you for helping to put this project together. It wasn't going to happen without your input and guidance and professionalism, right? Because I don't play drums.
Well, that's kind of you to say. I appreciate that very much.
And I don't have the recording facilities, and I don't have the video editing and the video capabilities. So really, the whole thing is not. I played guitar. I feel like that's it. And maybe I had the germination of the idea at some point in history. But thank you so much for doing it.
It was my honor and my pleasure. It was a great project, and I'm proud of the result. I think the video goes with the song well, and I think the
Oh yeah, the video ties it together absolutely. So
it really is, and I'm glad to have had a part in it here at the studio and play on it some. And I'm appreciative that you're willing to do the project. I think it's a good sounding project, and of course we're going to play it for you folks. I do want to, before we jump into that, I do want to just ask you, put you on the spot here. See, have you got any sort of an interesting Christmas memory of any kind you might want to share with the folks to let them ponder as they watch the Christmas images that will soon dawn their screen?
Well, I guess relating to this same series of pieces that I remember, my mom's side of the family, Christmas was they're just loud people. I mean, there ain't any getting around it. And every family reunion was full of turmoil, a lot of loud turmoil, because everybody broke the rules of talking about religion and politics, and
Nice.
And
thankfully it wasn't 2020.
Yeah, and I do remember playing these, some pieces at one of those, and I remember my uncle, he goes, I can't believe it. You shut the whole family up for 5 minutes. So,
Nice.
congrats. Yeah.
Nice.
So.
Nice. Well, let's play it for everybody, and let's let them have some Christmas cheer from Gear and Gigs and Stacy Venne. This is Christmas Suite. Everybody, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Gear and Gigs. Take care.
Yeah, thank you, Jet.
glad you could join us for another episode of Gear and Gigs. Take a moment to like and subscribe, and don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course YouTube. Until next time, take care.